For the explorers, fur trappers, and early pioneers, the frontier west of the Missouri River held many unknowns. But one thing was known for sure: it was fraught with danger. In addition to the many challenges the pioneers faced, sickness, injury, and death were a daily occurrence. Practice of medicine in the early to mid-1800s was mostly a dark science, and if you were alone in the wilderness, you were on your own when it came to treating whatever ailed you. If you were lucky, you might have a companion who could doctor you up, so to speak. Take, for example, Jedediah Smith. In 1823, while part of the Ashley 100 trapping expedition, Smith was attacked by a large grizzly bear. Taking Smith's head into its mouth, the bear severely lacerated his scalp and ripped off one of his ears. Luckily for Smith, after the attack, his companion, James Clyman, came to his aid. With the needle and thread he used to mend his buckskins, Clyman sewed up Smith's lacerated scalp and reattached his ear. Or, for example, in 1833, trapper Jim Bridger was shot in the back with an arrow during an encounter with the Blackfeet Indians. Unable to remove the arrowhead, it remained in his back until 1835, when he met Marcus Whitman at the Trapper Rendezvous near Pinedale, Wyoming. Fortunately for Bridger, Whitman, a missionary, was also a trained physician. Using nothing more than some rot-gut whiskey as an anesthetic, Whitman removed the 3-inch-long metal arrowhead which had become embedded in Bridger's backbone, much to the amazement of the Native Americans who watched the procedure. While there are many fantastic tales of frontier medicine, the early pioneers who crossed the plains, deserts, and mountains were faced with their own daily medical needs and emergencies. Diseases and illnesses such as cholera, dysentery, influenza, malaria, scurvy, and many more were commonplace. And on top of those were numerous other afflictions, such as animal attacks, broken bones, gunshot wounds, and lacerations. Doctors on the trail covered a wide spectrum of training and skills. If you were lucky, you might have a trained, licensed physician such as Dr. John Townsend of the Stephens-Townsend-Murphy party. Receiving his medical degree in Philadelphia, Dr. Townsend would provide medical services to a number of wagon trains heading west in 1844. He would also deliver 2 babies along the way, Ellen Independence Miller and Elizabeth Yuba Murphy. There were also doctors who weren't licensed, but may have had some training or studied under another doctor. One example of this is Edwin Bryant, a journalist who traveled west in 1846 ahead of the Donner Party. Bryant studied medicine under his uncle, Dr. Peter Bryant, father of the poet William Cullen Bryant. Paying $3 for his anatomy class, Bryant did receive enough training to provide basic medical services on the frontier trail. If you didn't have a trained physician in your party, you might be fortunate to have a granny doctor. Applying home remedies handed down through generations, these women were often quite effective at treating common ailments and afflictions. Some medical practitioners advertise themselves as Indian doctors, claiming to have medical knowledge passed on to them by native peoples. Some of these so-called doctors were able to provide effective remedies for basic ailments such as digestive problems, fevers, coughs, and the like. And then there were simply the quacks who were looking to make a fast buck from anyone on the trail who was desperate for a cure for whatever ailed them. Many of the medical practices on the trail had their origins hundreds of years earlier, such as hydropathy or hot and cold baths, restrictive diets, cupping, hypnotism, and various opium-based medicines such as Dover's powder for cold and fever, black drop for pain relief, laudanum, which was used as a cough suppressant, and Glauber salts, which were readily found in alkaline streams and lakes, was used as a laxative, and mercury chloride for purging. And then there were invasive procedures such as blistering and bleeding. An example of this last treatment was Pearson Reading, a member of the Childs Walker Party of 1843. Reading was suffering from a common ailment known as prairie fever. Dr. Marcus Whitman, who was leading a nearby Oregon party west, administered some medicine and bled Reading. As Reading described it, he cut an orifice in my arm large enough for a beaver to make his ingress. If what ailed you didn't kill you, the treatment might. Life on the trail, for even the sturdiest of pioneers, was a daily challenge. But for those who were sick or injured, it could be a matter of life or death. While approximately 10% of the over 250,000 immigrants from 1840 to 1870 died on the trail, many were saved by the crude medical practices of the day. One more example of the resiliency and spirit of the early pioneers.